Okay, class. So in this video, we're going to go through a number of different rights, okay, that employees have to fair wages, okay, or fair pay, and safety protections in their workplace. So we're just going to go through a couple of really important things that you're going to care about if you work or, when you enter the workforce in the near future. Okay, the first one, the the Fair Labor Standards Act. Now, what this did, it established rules for the work of minors. Okay, remember a minor is somebody under the age of 18. Okay, it established rules for overtime. Okay, how much can somebody be required to work overtime, and how do we compensate people for overtime work? And then it established a minimum wage, which is a bottom or a low amount that somebody can be paid. They cannot be paid any lower than the minimum wage legally. Okay, so that's what the Fair Labor Standards Act did. Okay, it protected minors from exploitation in the workforce. If you've ever seen the photos of, the 10-year-old kids down in the coal mines, okay, doing all that hazardous, very physically demanding work at such a young age, the Fair Labor Standards Act, it restricted those types of things, and it limited the amount of hours that minors could work, what sorts of jobs they could work. Okay, like I said, it established overtime. So if you work in most professions, if you work over a 40-hour week and you're paid by the hour, okay, your employer is required to pay you more for each hour over the 40 hours that you worked in the week. Okay, that's called overtime pay. Generally, it's time and a half, okay, meaning that you get 1.5 times the amount of pay that you normally would get. So if you normally get paid $12 an hour, overtime pay would be $18 an hour, but you only get that for the hours that you work over 40 hours a week. Okay, and like I just said, minimum wage is the lowest amount that an employer can legally pay an employee. Currently, it's $7.25 in Pennsylvania. Okay, now the next piece of legislation was the Equal Pay Act. Okay, and what this did is establish the equal pay rule. Okay, now this equal pay rule, what it does, it says that women, okay, they need to be paid the same as men for the same work. Okay, so if you have two employees and they do the same exact thing at your company, they have the same level of experience, then you have to pay them the same. Okay, you can't say to the woman, I'm going to pay you less because you're a woman. Okay, that would be violating the equal pay rule that was established in the Equal Pay Act. Okay, another one was the Employment Retirement Income Security Act. Okay, so what this says is employers, okay, they must place pension plans, okay, in a trust fund outside of the employer's control, and employees must receive regular reports about their retirement benefits. Okay, so a pension plan, we're going to learn what that is in a little bit, but basically it is a collection of money that is used by a company to pay people that have retired from that company. Okay, so the ERISA legislation said that the employer can't be the one that is controlling that. We need to give that over to somebody else, a third party, to control it and manage it, okay, so that employers can't tamper with it, okay, or do anything sneaky that would jeopardize the money in there, okay, because if the money goes away, then the company won't be able to pay their employees. Okay, and the other thing it did, it said you need to be informing your employees about the status of their retirement benefits, okay, how much money will they get paid when they retire. Okay, now what is a pension plan? Okay, a pension plan, it's a program that's established by an employer or a union to provide income to employees after they retire. Now it's important to say that not every job has a pension plan. Okay, pension plans are becoming more rare as time goes by. More companies are shifting their retirement strategies for their employees to 401ks. Okay, so the main difference is for the pension plan, you have a set amount that you will be paid in your retirement for your entire life. Okay. Now with a 401k, your pay in retirement, the amount of money that you're going to receive, is going to be based upon the amount of money that you have saved over the course of your working years. Okay, but we're not going to focus on 401ks here. I just want to focus on pension plans, okay, because that is the one where there's more legal ramifications with, okay? So that's what a pension plan is, okay? It's a program established by the employer or the union to provide income to the employees after they retire. Now the other thing here, Family and Medical Leave Act, okay, the FMLA. Here, what this said was companies with at least 50 employees, they need to allow 12 weeks of unpaid leave during any 12-month period for medical issues. Okay, so basically if there's a company out there and they have more than 50 employees, okay, so this doesn't apply to companies with less than 50 employees. Okay, those companies that fall into that category of 50 employees or more, for each employee, okay, they have to give them 12 weeks of unpaid leave every 12-month period if there are medical issues. Okay, so if somebody gets sick, okay, they have the right to go to their employer and say, look, I haven't taken any medical leave in the last 12 months. I am going to take the next 12 weeks off of work. I know that I'm not going to be paid for it, but I need to do it for my health. Okay, the company then needs to allow them to do that, and they cannot terminate or fire them because of that. Okay, the other thing too, those 12 weeks of unpaid leave for medical issues, they can apply to, a child or a spouse or a family member. Okay, so if somebody needs to take care of somebody that falls into one of those categories, they can take those 12 weeks of unpaid leave as well. Okay, another thing that falls under this umbrella of fair wages and benefits would be Social Security. Social Security is a tax, okay, that's placed on working Americans. So 12.4% of an employee's income gets taxed. You pay 6.2% of that tax, and your employer pays 6.2% of that tax. Okay, now where does that money go? It funds a pool of money, okay, to make payments to Americans who are over the age of 67 years old, okay, to disabled Americans and then any dependents, okay, dependent children of those disabled Americans. Okay, so Social Security is a safety net, okay, it provides income to the elderly and to the disabled who cannot go out and get a job to provide for themselves, okay. What that tax is doing, though, it's not paying for your retirement. It's not a savings for your retirement. What it's doing is it's paying the current retirees. So the people that are in the workforce right now, their taxes are going to pay for the retirees and the disabled Americans. Okay, so the hope is that one day when you are either elderly or if you become disabled, that the workforce would be able to provide to you Social Security. Okay, so unemployment compensation. This is a system of government payments to people who are out of work and looking for a job. Okay, so if you get laid off, okay, and this is a key point. So if your employer comes to you and say, look, we can't keep you on the payroll anymore, we're going to lay you off. Okay, you have the potential, okay, to receive unemployment compensation. Okay, now how does this happen? Okay, the employee's income taxes. So whenever you get a paycheck and you see those taxes coming out, part of those taxes go to fund unemployment, okay, so that you can get paid if you get laid off of work, okay, and your employer also contributes to unemployment compensation while you're working as well. Okay, so it's a mix of funding by the employee while they're working and their employer through taxes, okay, so that the laid off employee can receive unemployment compensation when they're out of work. Okay, so in Pennsylvania, we let unemployed workers collect unemployment compensation for 26 weeks. So after that 26 weeks is up, then you can no longer collect unemployment compensation, okay? And the theory there is, well, 26 weeks should be enough time for you to go out and find another job if that's your situation, okay? If your employer's not going to bring you back, then you need to go out and you need to find another job, and it should be assumed that half a year, 6 months would be enough time to do that, okay? Unemployment compensation isn't a one-for-one substitute for what you were making at your job. Generally, you're going to make about 50% of what you were making before, okay? And another key point about unemployment compensation, okay, if you were fired, okay, or you quit, that would mean that you cannot receive unemployment compensation, okay? This is for employees who were laid off, okay? So this is presumed to be temporary. All right, so the last item under fair wages and benefits is workers' compensation. Okay, now workers' comp is an insurance program for workers who are injured on the job or if they develop some sort of disability from their work. Okay, now what it does, it keeps paychecks coming to that worker, okay, if they can't work due to a work-related injury or illness, okay? Now you need to get your injury or illness verified by a company-approved doctor, okay? You can't just declare that you have an injury or a disability. You need to go to a doctor that has been approved by your company, okay, to say that yes, this person has an injury or a disability that stemmed from something that happened at work, okay? Now, if you are found to be lying about your injury, okay, or how you came about it, then you could face criminal charges for insurance fraud. Okay, so if you injure yourself at home doing something on your own time, you're not going to qualify for workers' compensation, okay? You took on that risk and you're the one that suffered the injury through your own personal activities. This only applies to if you suffer the injury or the illness from doing something at your employer's place of work, okay, or while you're working for that employer. Okay, it is limited to 104 weeks, which boils down to 2 years. Okay, so you can only draw on this for 2 years. And then after that 104 weeks is up, then you may get switched over to Social Security, which is what we said was the program in place through the government to take care of disabled people that do not have the ability to go out and work. Okay, so that is workers' compensation.